impossible, marketers insist. Away from that, 900 NNPCL stations to serve INEC during polls. Yakubu, I didn't offer to buy kidney, Ekweremadu tells UK court. Just by the look of the punch, Wike lacks popular support to help Tinubu Peter side. To the major story, New Naira, World Bank, IMF warn CBN, Supreme Court stops Friday deadline. Shortage of new notes has caused hardships, disrupted trade payment. IMF, protest rocks Abuja as Tinubu, El-Rufai hail judgment. Malami asks court to dismiss suit. INEC appeals Osun poll judgment, defends Adeleke's victory. 805 million naira fraud. Fleeing Senator Nwaboshi nabbed, sent to prison, and that's on the red corner. And finally, on the punch, Turkey-Syria earthquake deaths now over 11,200.
Over to the Premium Times newspaper this morning. Nigeria decides 2023 political parties justify Chatham House appearances. Elsewhere, IMF urges Nigerian government to remove fuel subsidy by mid-2023. Naira redesign, Nigerian government asks Supreme Court to dismiss state suit. 805 million naira fraud, EFCC arrests convicted senator who avoided jail for 7 months. Obasanjo speaks on alleged plot to scuttle Nigerian elections. INEC chairman briefs FEC, says elections will hold as scheduled. Turkey-Syria earthquake death toll nears 10,000. Elsewhere from the Premium Times, 2023 commission to monitor police conduct in 744 local government areas. Court bars Rivers government from arresting members of PDP, PCC. PDP alleges plots by APC to disrupt general elections is another one there from the Premium Times. And lastly, we're ready for election, APC.
So the Daily Post, INEC opens up on liking Soware's tweet calling Peter Obi opportunist. Away from that, you'll find Turkey-Syria earthquake, death toll hits 12,000. CBN Naira redesign affects politicians, vote buyers more than the masses. Ozehome. And you can also find 2023 elections, SDP reps candidate Popola issues stern warning to Kwara REC. 116 billion naira fraud, ICPC secures conviction of ex-permanent secretary, one order. Naira, fuel scarcity a sabotage, generic problem. APC go by candidate, Bago. Woman who lured teenagers into prostitution in Delta, jailed in Anambra. And still, Abia governor denies illegal coronation, says there is no emirate council. CBN deadline still on Daily Post. Supreme Court ruling saved Nigerians from evil, Fani Kayode. And we take two more stories and move to another paper. Naira scarcity protest. Abiodun visits stray bullet victim at FMC. Urges Ogun residents to be calm. And finally, currency swap. Reps committee invites INEC chairman, finance minister.
From the Guardian newspaper, British Council honours 12 Nigerians, grants awardees £4,000 each. Also, world attention on Nigeria. Hope nothing tampers with elections, Obasanjo warns. Joshua looking amazing under new trainer ahead of battle with Franklin. Sancho salvages Manchester United draw with managerless Leeds. Northern Can warns Nigerians on divisive antics of El-Rufai. Vigilante leader Fulani chief sue IGP others over illegal detention. Stop starving NDDC fund. Monarch tells Niger Delta Ministry. Also, you have this one. Customs seize Indian hemp. Military camouflage. Carbide worth 517.9 million naira. Also, Naira swap. Wike Hill Supreme Court. Rivers to join suit. Kogi governor's nephew, 4 others arraigned, remanded for alleged 3 billion naira fraud. I'll take one more from the Guardian newspaper. Editorial, between unionism and economic sabotage in aviation sector.
To the Vanguard, old Naira notes, you have no power to stop deadline. Malami tells Supreme Court. Don't use me as tool to insult my uncle, Madekuti tells Peter Okoye. Dismiss Osun Election Tribunal judgment, INEC tells appeal court. And still on the Vanguard, Emefiele meets Buhari after Supreme Court ruling on Naira swap deadline. Sanwo-Olu cuts Lagos transport fares by 50% over fuel Naira scarcity. Atiku in Yobe vows to return peace, facilitate free flow of human agricultural resources. Naira fuel scarcity, Sanwo-Olu rolls out relief package. Tinubu will visit Naira redesign policy as president. El Rufai banks ATM points shot in Ogun after protest. Naira redesign, 3 things to know about the Supreme Court judgment. Nothing will stop elections from holding Obasanjo. Presidential election appeal court declines to disqualify Obi Labour Party. And we'll take 2 more stories and move to another paper. Pray for me. Victoria undergoes 3rd surgery, announces 2 months break. INEC under fire for liking Twitter post calling Peter Obi opportunist.
All right, let's move over to the Daily Trust. The major headline this morning from there is dismiss suit challenging old Naira notes. Federal government tells Supreme Court. Obasanjo, I hope nothing will stop 2023 elections. Is also another one there for you. Venus overwhelmed by hamstring injury, preparing for a rehab grind. IMF asks CBN to extend Naira deadline. Supreme Court restrains federal government from enforcing old notes deadline. INEC chairman briefs FEC 17 days to elections. National crisis. Buhari convenes emergency council of state meeting Friday. Another one from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. On the business side of things, dredging of Calabar Port to commence soon, NPA. Cash fuel scarcity, Lagos government slashes transport fares. We'll take some messages. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at the analysis and taking your reactions. Stay with us.
32 FM 94.9.
It's time to enjoy fast and reliable internet connection for less.
It's time to go big in the INT'L Home Broadband All-Time Mega Offer.
It's time to take advantage in the INT'L Home Broadband All-Time Mega Offer. Get a MiFi with up to 125 gigabyte bonus data for just 5,000 naira, or a router with up to 240 gigabyte bonus data for just 10,000 naira. Visit any INT'L shop or www.airtel.com.ng/HBB now.
INT'L, the smartphone network.
Why always Wura? Why does her quest to save her gold leave us hungry and broken?
Don't miss the new drama series, Wura, where everything is fair game. Sign up now at showmax.com.
Are you ready?
When we look at the horizon, we see our followers, and as we keep looking, we are inspired to keep moving. To you all, we say thank you. For our followers on Facebook, you are the best. To those on Twitter and Instagram, we love you. And to our YouTube subscribers, we throw you salute. For those who are yet to join us on the flight, we know you are waiting. So catch us live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 32FM949 Ibadan. And to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it is at 32FM949 Ibadan. You are the real heroes. Once again, we say thank you.
32 FM 94.9. 32 FM 94.9.
And we're back with you. The Break of Dawn Papers Review on 32 FM 94.9. I am DENIKE Adimiwago.
And I'm Kenny Durutilu.
Professor Olu Jadokun joins us in the studio. Good morning, Prof.
Of course, it's top of the day to you.
Top of the day to you as well. Let's talk about the Naira redesign. The February 10 deadline has now been reportedly suspended by the Supreme Court. And I think the major question now is, will the federal government obey the order, or would MFLA and the president obey the order of the Supreme Court, especially as the order might contravene with the reason why the new Naira note has been through this process in the first place?
First and foremost, let's be very clear that this is an interim injunction. Which has been entered into, and it can still be subject to another injunction, or can be reversed rather. In other words, it's holds till the 15th of February when the Supreme Court will reconvene. There are questions as to whether the Supreme Court in its judgment is right, but they haven't dealt with the substantive issue. This is just a temporary injunction and it could be reversed. Yes, it upsets the plans of the central bank, because the reason for this really was to ensure that a lot of illicit notes held in the hands of kidnappers, criminals, and of course politicians are, not only accounted for or are rendered, rendered illegal. In other words, they cut the amount of arsenal they have to be able to do what they want to do, and at the same time they bring some sanity to monetary supply and to monetary policy. So, of course, the Supreme Court is treading into uncharted waters. And if I might even go further, there are people asking the question that Section 232 of the Nigerian Constitution allows states to take the federal government, to court, and allows the Supreme Court to exercise its originating powers in those circumstances. And people are arguing that this kind of dispute is not the kind of dispute envisaged by the Supreme Court. Others would argue that, under Section 251, it should have been the Federal High Court that would have dealt with such issues such as this. So there's so many arguments that are still going to come out of this. And so we haven't seen the end of this yet.
All right, Prof, there's some issues. There are some issues regarding this. Some have said that this hasn't actually been decided altogether by the Supreme Court. Like you said, an interim injunction there. What is the what are the legal technicalities at play here when you say that we're hearing from certain quarters that the Supreme Court has given this order, at other quarters we're saying that that's not exactly true and that can be challenged?
So what happens is that if there's imminence, if there's something that is about to happen to you, maybe you're about to be sacked, maybe your buildings are about to be destroyed, maybe perishable items are about to perish, you can rush to the Supreme Court without putting the other party on notice and say that, pending the time that you hear the full case, can you grant me an injunction so that the issue is preserved? Because if you don't grant me an injunction quickly, the issue will no longer be preserved and the action will be moot. It will be theoretical, it will be hypothetical. And so the rush, and the Supreme Court says, okay, pending the time that we hear the merits of the case, we will grant you. So the merits of the case have not been heard yet. So no decision, no judgment has been entered. What has happened is an order, and that's why the word interim applies to it. In other words, after the 5 days or so, from that point. But the issue again is that the Naira, the old Naira, in terms of confidence, in terms of acceptability, has been dented. Even if the Supreme Court has extended it, you will discover that having loads and loads or hordes of cash of old Naira notes, you understand, you may not be able to spend it. Because people want, the new notes, because that's the future. The future is certainly the new notes and not the old notes. So even Supreme Court doing that is not necessarily salvaging the problem for now. You understand? It's bringing more confusion and it's bringing more suffering, because a lot of people will go with their old notes and may not be able to spend it. Implications
for the elections in some days' time, 15 days, they're about now. What are the implications? I know you have touched on that, but in the real sense, in practical sense.
Well, the implications are really for INEC, not necessarily for us as individuals. INEC, because INEC may want to pay their staff, not staff, all the people that assist them, ancillaries and so on and so forth. And many of the ancillaries sometimes get cash rather than transfers because of the nature of the terrain that they have. And that might affect them being able to pay those, and that might affect services. So it may affect some of the operations of the elections. But for the politicians, what it means is that they're still not certain whether they'll be able to give us, those who are interested, of course, in bribing the electorate, it's still not certain they will have a lot of cash to do that, because a lot of their cash has been curtailed, and there's no certainty whether that money, the old Naira notes, will be legal tender as to the time of the election. So it's a double whammy, you understand. It affects us, it also affects the politicians at the same time.
All right.
All right, moving to this headline, 195 naira per litre, impossible. Adamant marketers tell government. Now, this is coming in light of the fact that the federal government said that they had set aside about 140 million litres of PMS for members of the association in a bid to address their fuel supply challenges. Now, the IPMAN secretary says that they cannot conclude that the problem is over, but they have to give it about a week or so because it's impossible to dispense at 195 per litre. I guess we're going up and up from here and not down anymore.
Yes, it's up because it used to be 174?
165?
165 and then it became 174, 175. Anyway, the thing about it is that for NNPC, for the major marketers and NNPC, it is possible. But for the independent, it is not possible because they don't get the fuel direct. And when you don't get it direct, the middleman takes most of the cost or some of the cost. And that's why the 195 is not feasible. And I've said it before, there are many fuel tanks, petrol firms all over the place. And a lot of these petrol firms, you understand, do not even have petrol stations. In other words, where is the fuel going to? Where's the subsidized fuel going to? And it's been suggested that most of this subsidized fuel is going abroad. When I mean abroad, I'm talking about near abroad. You understand, Cameroon, Republic of Niger, Republic of Benin, from that point of view. So I think the reality of it is that except these independent marketers are able to get this petrol directly, PMS as they call it, then that price, 195, may be unrealistic to them. They are not in it for charity. They are not doing voluntary service. They are in it to make money. And of course, they want to make good money at the same time, from that point of view.
All right, let's take a look at another headline, another story here. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has expressed hope that nothing would stop the conduct of the general elections scheduled for of concerns by some Nigerians at the elections. Spoon Prof.
Yes, that issue.